A lot more organised than what I was. They know their stories a lot better. I've got bullet points. I kind of fucked up. That's my bullet points there. Way too many bullet points. I timed it this morning. They told us 12 minutes. First time I had to go, it was 27 minutes. So, here we go. So, my story starts 27th of September 2015. Now, to give you a bit of background as to what was happening back then, way back then, the Rugby World Cup was on that week. Japan had just beaten South Africa in the Rugby World Cup. That sounds like that's not really important to the story when you hear the story, but actually it might be, so remember that. Basically I watched half of rugby in that morning. I was supposed to go and start work at 9 o'clock. Just a normal day at work, so I headed off to work at 9 o'clock, didn't watch the rest of the rugby. So just an ordinary day for me. However, an ordinary day for me at that stage in my life is rather an extraordinary day for most people in their lives. I was at that stage employed as a skydive cameraman at a drop zone, doing camera on people doing their tandem skydives. So I'd been doing that for 12 years, 14,000 skydives. Pretty shit hot, I thought. So basically, got to about 1 p.m. in the afternoon, fourth jump of the day. You may see where this is going, but yeah, so spoiler alert, I lived. But basically, what happened is I had a malfunction of my main parachute. So it opened, it inflated, it was there, it was flying, but it was flying down and it was flying to the right. So I won't go into the gory details of the malfunction, but I basically, like before, and I've had multiple malfunctions in my skydiving career, tried to correct that malfunction by pulling on the right hand brake line. However, I just spent far too long doing it. It didn't clear, and so then basically I looked at my altitude on my altimeter, and I was much too low to go to Plan B, reserve. So usually what you do, get rid of your main, go for your reserve, and then happy days, it's fine, you fly this reserve parachute down. I went for Plan C. Don't go for Plan C, guys. It's bullshit. So yeah, basically I tried to fly my parachute straight ahead, stuck my hand on the left-hand rear riser group and held the parachute flying straight, and thought, yeah, okay, I'll just hold this. I'll eat shit when I land, I'll keep it flying straight, it's fine. However, the flaw in the plan is that I'm a weedy, skinny little man who does not have any strength in his left arm, and it didn't really hold the parachutes straight. So at a really low altitude, the parachute started to turn, and when a parachute turns, it dives. So basically I was spinning and diving towards the ground, and that was the moment for me. That was it. I was, yeah, not happy, to put it lightly. So what happened was, I smashed into the fucking ground and destroyed myself. Thankfully, there were a couple of guys at the drop zone. I wasn't too far away from the drop zone, only a few hundred meters away. They saw my parachute smash into the ground, and basically it was battle stations they ran. They suspended operations for the day, and everybody ran over to go and try and help the dead guy. So yeah, basically they got to me, but I was still conscious when they got to me. I was still lucid. I was still able to, kind of, tell them what was going on and that sort of stuff. So that was cool. So immediately, one of the lads, Dean, he was one of the a son of one of the owners, or the owners actually, I should say. He called 111. So he called, it didn't work immediately. He called a second time, that call failed as well. So that ended up being the subject of a ministerial report about 111 and the failures that happened, which was pretty, pretty cool. Makes me fucking cool, right? Yeah. So yeah, that guy gets it. So what happened was that finally they got through to 111. They got an ambulance. The police came as well. It took them 50 minutes for the ambulance to arrive though, because the two ambulances, we have two active ambulance crews in Queenstown at any given time. They were both on jobs. So they got there after 50 minutes. I'm there lying in a field dying, bleeding internally and whatnot. So they finally got there. They administered like ketamine in the field. They got all of the guys, all of my friends, my workmates, the people that I've worked with for years and years, and all my best friends to help out because they're right there, like shit. So they put ketamine in me, which kind of blissed me out finally because I was in a lot of pain. And then just as they were loading me into the ambulance, I flatlined. So my mates, the guys that I know really well and have worked with, and you know, we just hang out all the time. They're watching me, and I'm dying as they're putting me into the ambulance. So basically, one of the guys, Will, he administered what I call percussive defibrillation, which is smashing someone in the chest to restart their heart. It worked. So they got me going again. They loaded me in, and the ambulance set off. Now, because I was flatlining, as they were loading me in, they wanted both with the paramedics. The paramedics said, "We need a driver." They were looking at one of the cops, so we need a driver, someone jump in. And so my mate Blackie, give it up for Blackie. The man, Blackie drove the ambulance. So Blackie got us in another 2 Ks down the road before basically died again. So my heart stopped. Don't drop my GoPro, man, shit. So yeah, heart stopped again. They got me going again, but Blackie was in the front going, "When do we go?" And then the paramedics were like, "No, you can't drive. We don't have insurance for that." And he was like, "Fuck that shit, let's go." And so they took off, and so they got me to Queenstown Hospital. Now, Queenstown Hospital is not set up for this shit. What was going on? They cannot fix people who are so fucking destroyed and broken into a million pieces as I was. Just as they rolled in, I had the pleasure of speaking with one of my paramedics after the accident, probably about a year after, and she said, just as we were rolling into the hospital, your blood pressure went to 0. You were out of blood. All of your blood was sitting inside of your cavities within your abdomen and inside your chest, out of blood. So they filled me up with blood at Queenstown Hospital. I used all of their blood. So after I was in there, they had to send a police car from Cromwell rather quickly with more blood, just in case there was some other fuckwit who had fucked themselves up that day. And then, yeah, basically they kept me going. Queenstown Hospital managed to stabilise me. They put blood in me. They managed to start draining blood from out of my chest cavity. And then what happened next? And then, so basically, whilst they were working on me, Catherine, my long-suffering partner, give it up for Catherine. She was snowboarding up at the remote ski field, so she managed to negotiate a ride down with somebody, and yeah, she was told I had a broken leg or something. So when she walked in and there was a naked Stu broken into 1,000 pieces with somebody breathing for him, and you know, all sorts of mayhem going on, she wasn't. She was kind of put off a little bit. So yeah, that's she had rather an interesting trip down the mountain as well. So then they sent a helicopter to pick us up. Took me to Dunedin. Catherine negotiated a ride. She's good at negotiating rides in this story. I don't know why that's the verb of the day, but anyway, she was in the front. There was a nurse in the back with me from ICU, and we went and landed on the roof at Dunedin Hospital. I was rushed immediately into theatre. General surgeons went to work. For hours and hours they worked on me, and then finally, you know, hours later, Catherine had to sit there and she suffered waiting, not knowing anything, and so finally somebody came out and spoke to her and said, you know, okay, so we've got him stable right now, there's still a good chance that he won't make it through the night. So the next 3 days I was in and out of surgery, x-rays, all of that sort of thing, lots of treatment going on. For me, I was in an induced coma at this stage, and I was in an induced coma for a total of 6 days. Finally, my vital signs started picking up after all of that shit. And so what they did was they decided, yeah, well, let's wake him up. He's strong enough, he'll be able to breathe on his own. So that's where I re-enter with my memory of the story. Basically, this shit may not have even happened because I wasn't there. I have no idea. So basically, I woke up. It was, yeah, I started having these really bizarre dreams. I was on quite a combination of drugs, so ketamine and fentanyl, morphine derivatives, shit like that. So I was pretty out of it when I woke up, and so the nurse at the time said to me, okay, so you've had a really bad skydiving accident. Can you tell me about it? And I was like, shut up, bitch, I didn't have a skydiving accident. So I'd had these crazy dreams as I was waking up. I had this dream that I woke up during surgery. I was in Japan. There was this Japanese man with a sign saying, go back to sleep. Don't look at what we're doing. You shouldn't be here, bad. There was another dream where I was basically like in this really scary place, hanging from a hook with a bunch of other human bodies, like a type of freezing works, and that was really bizarre and quite scary at the time. And there was another dream that involved rugby, because Rugby World Cup. And so she said, yeah, you were in a skydiving accident. I was like, no. What happened was, I was in Japan. And I thought at this time that I was in Japan as well. So I was like, okay, so I'm in Japan. I was in Japan. And I managed to sneak into the test between Japan and Fiji. And I got into the, not only that, but I got into the changing room. I got a jersey on. And I played a half of rugby on the wing. I played on the right wing, and I scored a try. And just as I was scoring that try, this big Fijian winger came and crunched me, and he broke my arm. And I was absolutely right, I broke my arm. The rest was bullshit, but it was it was so funny that you know, those dreams I picked up somehow, you know, waking up, that my arm was fucked. It was absolutely destroyed, as it turns out. Does everybody want to hear my list of injuries? Yeah. No. Okay, so let's start a count. 21 fractures, 17 bones. Let's count them off together, guys. So, ribs. 5 ribs on the right, broken. 3 on the left. Totals, 8, yeah? Okay, 3 fractures in my pelvis. 11 fractures. And then we'll move up to my face. Broken nose, broken jaw, broken, what was the other one? Eye socket. 14. Broken eye socket. 14, good man, keep it up. Okay, another 7, where can we find these? So, broken humerus, this one. 2 bones here, ulnar and radius. 17, very good, 17. 17 bones, 17 fractures. You guys dropped the ball. Okay, so also, also had a broken back. So one of my vertebrae had 2 cracks in it as well. Fuck it, fuck the count, who cares? I got messed up. So that's the fractures. Split liver, couple of splits in my liver, bruised kidneys, lung damage, facial lacerations, multiple hematoma. The whole entire right side of my body was black and blue and brown and yellow. And so basically, because of the spin, I put my arm out and my right arm was absolutely destroyed. So part of that right arm situation was the radial nerve injury. So the radial nerve, I'll tell you about that later on, but that was a devastating injury itself. A humeral exit wound, so broken bone poking through, rather nasty concussion. Not that you can tell now, that's the beer. You know, just for fun, a lacerated penis, and I don't know how that happened. So within about 24 hours of waking up, they moved me on to So it moved me into HDU. So I didn't require, machines to keep me alive. They were happy. So I moved into HDU. To put it bluntly, basically I was having a really bad time. It was pretty bad. I was in a lot of pain, 8 out of 10 breathing, 8 broken ribs. You can't laugh, you can't cough. There was a lot of coughing, my lungs were filled with blood, sneezing, whatever, talking even. I was a bit like, if you remember Malcolm in the Middle, there was a character, Stevie, in a wheelchair, and he had to pause mid-sentence, every sentence, because he didn't have enough breath. And that was what I was like. And that was fucking annoying in itself. So there was also CPAP treatment that they were giving me, so they're forcing, high pressurized, moist air into my face, and that's just, when you've got that mask on, that's all you're doing. You can't concentrate on anything. It's just that for 2 to 3 hours at a time. Really unhappy. So on top of that, I'm also experiencing a lot of kind of like delirium from the drugs and all that sort of stuff, and I'm like a bit paranoid. They're like, people, these nurses, that fuckers, they're after me. And so, after about another 24 hours in HTU, finally I was sitting there, and as my consciousness elevated, as I started waking up more, the morphine was, coming away, and as I was becoming more like myself, I remembered the moment. Now, I'd only brushed over the moment when I was spinning towards the earth. That was when I knew that I was going to die. My entire skydiving career, 12 years, when I was learning to skydive, they tell you, don't turn your parachute low. If you turn too low and you spin into the ground, you will die. That's it. So I knew I was going to die. And so I remembered I had that moment, and I was like, wow, yeah, shit, I knew I was going to die. And I was right. But thankfully I had the right people there for me, and this skinny string bean body held together enough for me to stay alive. And so basically I remembered that, and then from being so unhappy with my situation, it was very, very intense. From remembering that moment, from there, I was just like so fucking happy to be alive. I started crying. I was just like, as you should. I was just like so fucking happy to be alive. I remembered I was there, and I was just like, right, okay. If the doctor walked in right then and said, Stu, what we got to do is put 10 needles in your dick, I would have been like, yeah, do it. Fine, I'm cool. And so that, remembering that, it gave me a real perspective. I was alive. I was happy to be alive. Like every treatment from then on, yeah, I'm happy. Whatever you want me to do, I'll do it. And so that really coloured my attitude about everything and the whole experience. And so actually for what was quite a devastating injury, accident, all that sort of stuff, it was overwhelmingly positive to me. And so, in the end, I just had this joy for life, even though I was sitting in fucking HDU with a bunch of old people who just had their hemorrhoids removed. But it was cool. So, from there, I had my ups and downs within HDU. I started really, at one stage, just quite recovering really, really quickly. So within about 12 days of being woken up, basically I was off of pain meds. I'd gone from like waking up, the pain team would come around every morning, what do you rate your pain? I'm sitting there on the first day, fucking 8, man, what do you fucking think? To like, I don't need meds anymore within 12 days of waking up, 18 days of the accident. Then they moved me out of HU. They moved me to what is rather unfortunately called the ISIS ward in Waikato, but that's a rehab ward. So I wasn't allowed to walk with the pelvic, they're called fractures. I wasn't allowed to walk, so I wasn't allowed to go home. So I had to kind of just start my rehab then. And so we went through a lot of rehabs, a lot of like hand therapy, physio, all that sort of stuff there in Waikato. And within a few weeks, I was discharged. I also worked with a psychologist skydivers are kind of weird. We're psychologically able to put fear aside. I was so very fucking traumatized to start with. I was like, no, never skydiving again. By the time they moved me out of HDU, only 12 days after waking up, I was like, yeah, you know, maybe. And then when I left Whakari, you know, all traces of anxiety or anything skydive related, we'd eliminated them, and I was basically, I mean, that sounds fucking stupid to most of you in this room, but yeah, I was actually like ready to do another skydive. However, of course, my body wasn't quite right. So yeah, they released me 2 months to the day from Whakari Rehab Hospital. I still had another surgery to have on my radial nerve injury. Now, the radial nerve is responsible for this, so extension of your wrists, extension of your fingers, extension of your thumb. Now that is a really fucking good result, that thumbs up there, because for 2 years I had a splint on my right arm, and yeah, and I was so very happy to get rid of that splint. I had 2 years on an ACC holiday, not really a holiday, but rehab, and I did that full time, so trying to get myself fit, get myself strong, managed to get rid of that splint after 2 years. I've kind of missed a step here where, yeah, so there was another surgery, which was 6 months after my accident, to the day where they took a piece of nerve out of my leg and they plugged it into my upper arm. And because of that nerve graft, today I can, well, stand here without a splint, and the debilitating suntan lines that come with a splint, and also, yeah, and do all this. So yeah, basically it was 2 years I had to return to the workforce. I was not fit for skydiving, so found another job, which is nice, and continued on with my rehab. A lot of time in the gym, a lot of time waiting for this nerve. So motor neurons, they take a very long time to regenerate. 1 millimetre per day is how slow they regenerate. So they regenerated. I'm here now. I declared myself fit towards the end of 2019 to go skydiving. So then I went to go do a skydive in Ashburton, and the weather was fucking shit, so I didn't do it that weekend. But then the next weekend, the plane was broken, so I didn't do it that weekend. And then the same again, and the same again, and the same again, and then COVID, and here I am, still haven't done a skydive, but I'm ready to go. I'm fucking ready. Someone give me a fucking plane. But yeah, and so, you know, if we look at it as a film, we do not have the satisfying ending yet to that film. And it will be a film, guys. But yeah, we're so very close, and thank you all so much for listening. It was the best of times, and it was really the worst of times. Thank you.
Sorry for dropping your camera, bro.